If you've been scrolling through endless lists of construction marking tools and still aren't sure which one actually makes sense, this review should clear that up. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent a few weeks on job sites and in my own garage testing the Ridgid 19243 locator, the Navitrack Scout Pal, and I want to walk through what I found in plain-spoken terms, not a spec sheet readout. First off, the biggest hesitation most of us have is the fear of buying a smart locator that looks good on paper but can't actually find a stud behind a wall or a pipe hidden in a ceiling. I've been there, bought a tool based on a flashy advertisement, only to discover it missed the most common obstacles. That's why I focused on real-world scenarios, marking out wall studs for a new bookshelf, tracing plumbing lines before a remodel, and even checking joist spacing when hanging heavy brackets. In each case, the Scout Pal had to prove it could locate metal, wood, and even live wiring without false alarms. The first practical strength that stood out was the simplicity of the user interface. The unit lights up an easy Toriad LCD that flips between stud, metal, and live wire icons as you sweep it across the surface. There's no need to toggle menus or scroll through endless options. On a bright construction site, the backlit display stays visible, and the audible tone changes pitch depending on what it's detecting, which is handy when you're crouched under a ceiling and can't stare at the screen. That combination of visual and audio feedback cuts down on guesswork and lets you keep both hands on the tool while you move. A second advantage is the battery life. The Scout Pal runs on a standard AA battery that I found lasted through an entire day of intensive use on a full-scale remodel. I didn't have to pause for a recharge in the middle of locating studs for a drywall project, which is a real time saver. The battery compartment is sealed, so the tool survived a couple accidental drops and a brief rain shower when we were working on an exterior wall. For anyone who's juggling multiple tools on a job site, that durability translates directly into less downtime. Now, no tool is perfect, so let's talk about the hidden trade-offs. The device's detection depth felt solid for typical 24 framing. It reliably found studs up to about 1 inch deep. However, on older homes with plaster walls over lath, the signal sometimes faded a bit earlier, requiring a second pass. That isn't a deal breaker if you're aware of the limitation, but it does mean you might need a supplementary method, like a small drill hole, when you're working in historic structures. Also, the unit doesn't have a built-in laser line for extending the mark across a room. So after you locate a stud, you still need a separate level or laser to transfer that line onto adjacent walls. It's a small extra step, but something to keep in mind if you prefer a single-tool workflow. Who should consider buying the Ridgid Scout Pal? If you're a professional contractor who needs to locate studs, metal pipes, and live wiring on a daily basis, the tool's speed and reliability pay for itself in reduced labor hours. Electricians will appreciate the live wire detection that gives a quick heads-up before they start cutting. Plumbers and HVAC technicians also benefit from the metal detection when tracing conduit behind drywall. Even serious DIYers who are renovating a whole house will find the combination of visual and audio cues useful, especially when you're working in low-light basements or cramped attic spaces. On the flip side, if you only need to find a stud once a year for a simple picture hang, you might be better off with a basic magnetic stud finder that costs a fraction of the price. The Scout Pal's extra features, live wire alerts, multi-material detection, and rugged battery life, are overkill for occasional use and could feel like you're paying for capabilities you'll never tap. Likewise, anyone who already relies heavily on a laser level for layout might find the lack of an integrated laser a nuisance, as it adds a small step to the workflow. From a value-for-money perspective, the price point sits in the mid-range for professional-grade locators. When you factor in the durable housing, the long-lasting battery, and the fact that the unit is manufactured in the United States, which often translates to tighter quality control, you're getting a tool that is likely to outlast cheaper imports that tend to fail after a few months. The 5-star rating from over 200 users suggests that people who have actually put it through the grind are generally satisfied, even though we don't have individual review excerpts to quote. A final practical note: the included accessories are minimal, just a